Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our workshop today on using AI in grant proposal development. My name is Janice Kung, and I am a health librarian from the University of Alberta Library. To begin, I would like to start with an acknowledgement that we are acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today, and I respectfully acknowledge that I am situated on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of First Nations and Métis people. This acknowledgement represents my sincere gratitude to the diverse Indigenous peoples whose footsteps have marked this territory for centuries and has enriched me in the ways that I work, learn, and live with others on this land. Friendly reminder, this session will be recorded and the slides will be shared with all of you afterwards. There will also be some resources that will be disseminated after the session to U of A affiliated members only. So just be aware of that. But the slides will be shared with everyone. And I also have the pleasure of introducing our presenters today. We have Dr. Paolo Musone, the Director of Researcher Development and Success with the Office of the Vice President Research, Dr. Ibironke Popula, Research Development Officer with the Office of the Vice President Research, and Dr. Ali Shiri, Vice Dean with the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, GPS. Before turning things over to our speakers, we have a few disclaimers that we have to share with you. Ibironke, if you could advance the slides for a moment. Oh, and Paulo's here. Hello, Paulo. You made it. Here, okay, one quick moment, everyone. I'm just going to flip Paulo to be a co-host so that he can also share his slides. Just give me one quick moment while I find Paulo here. Where are you, Paulo? There you are. Okay, and you are now a co-host as well. Okay, okay, back to our regular programming. We have a few disclaimers to share. Generative AI is a polarizing issue, and we want to acknowledge that all perspectives are valid, no matter where you sit on that spectrum. This workshop is part of the University of Alberta's AI literacy approach. Knowing about AI and its competencies is really important to better equip you as researchers to use AI in an ethical and responsible way. And we will not be providing an overview of what generative AI is, and we also won't have the time to cover the ethical implications of using AI, such as copyright, data privacy, and environmental impacts. However, we are not discounting the importance of these issues. We just wanted to mention that we simply do not have time to cover these important topics today. Without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Paolo to start us off. Take it away.
Hi, everyone.
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen, Paulo?
Wonder if I'm able to move it forward. I
can stop sharing.
Yeah, you would have to start. You have to share, Paulo. Then you can advance the slides. I think that might be easier for you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, just do that. One moment. Okay. Should be good to go. And the LED should be coming through in a second.
Yeah, perfect.
There we go. Thanks, everyone, and thank you, Janice, so much for the introduction. This is a roadmap of what we're going to talk about today. We will talk about the framework for the responsible use of AI at the University of Alberta. This is the how. The university is encouraging all staff and researchers and students, everybody who's a member at the University of Alberta to approach the use of AI. We'll then also talk about AI data safety guidelines. This is what we can do with AI, specifically Google Gemini, and what we cannot do. We'll also mention that there's guidelines in place, put in place by the GPS. We'll then cover some information about the Tri-Council agency, the guidelines that they provide on the use of AI in relation to grant proposal development and grant proposal peer review. And then we will touch on using artificial intelligence in research grant development, which Bironke will cover. We will also provide you with information about Google Gems and grant proposal development. That's also Bironke. And Ali will then take us on a tour on how to use NotebookLM in grant proposal development. The framework at the university is built on 6 principles. The principles of transparency, which in this context means encouraging everyone at the university to be transparent with their colleagues when they're using AI and document their use throughout the grant proposal development cycle. This is important to build in order to build trust with each other and with an eye to maintaining a historical record of what we have done and monitor the responses of the AI. It's a key part of that framework. We know that AI tools can contain biases, and this may be propagated and perpetuated by in their outputs. So keeping that in mind is really important, so that whenever we review an output from using an AI tool, we do that very critically, and we do that with that frame of mind. We mentioned environmental impact. There are undeniable environmental impacts associated with using artificial intelligence, the computing that happens at data centers, for example. So maintaining a careful use and using it when necessary is one way of minimizing that impact. We own everything that we submit when it comes to grant proposal development. So AI should never be considered as a co-author, rather an assistant or a support system. And in that sense, make sure that everything that you submit in a grant proposal has been reviewed and vetted by you and by your colleagues. Respecting privacy and protecting data is perhaps the most important piece to take away today. Safeguard your data, make sure that nothing that's sensitive, and we'll talk about that in a moment, or IP related, is ever put into an AI, including into Google Gemini. And this will allow to remain compliant with privacy laws and other laws that are in place. Human oversight is also an important principle in the framework. This means maintaining the human in the loop. Humans must always be the ultimate decision makers on all aspects of working with AI, from inputting data to evaluating the outputs. Maybe asking why Google Gemini specifically, or we're talking about that specifically today. It's because currently it's the only institutionally approved artificial intelligence tool at the university. The subscription that we have, the tenant, it's called, that we have with the university, is such that every interaction we have with that large language model stays within the U of A Google workspace. That is your dedicated CCID-enabled workspace. And so prompts or any data that you exchange will not be reviewed by other humans or used by Google to improve their generative model. Before using Google Gemini, I would encourage everyone to think about the data that they're going to put into Google Gemini, and I'll speak specifically about classification in a moment. I would encourage everyone to minimize, whenever possible, the amount of data that's going to be put in, redact and generalize the data that is going to be put in. For any of you that may be carrying out work that touches on research security, for example, you're developing a proposal that is about dual-use technologies, before doing anything that's related to using Google Gemini or any other large language model, please contact our Safeguarding Research Office at the Vice President Research. The University of Alberta has a 4-tier data classification. This is, from my perspective, in a safety sense, the single most important piece of information from this portion of the presentation today. There are data that are classified as restricted. These are data that carry extreme sensitivity to them, significant harm could be caused by leaking them, by ending up in the wrong hands. We're talking about identifiable participant health data, for example, social insurance numbers, credit card numbers, that type of information. This is information that must never touch any kind of AI, not even Gemini. There's also another class called confidential class. These are data that will also cause serious loss if they were to be exposed. We're talking in this case, for instance, about unpublished intellectual property, data that's really proprietary to you, industry partner data under a non-disclosure agreement. None of this type of information should ever touch an AI, including Google Gemini. The third category is called protected. This is data that we as university staff and students generate. For example, in the context of grant proposal, it could be a work plan structure, it could be an internal budget, it could be a plain summary for a grant that we're going to submit. That data is considered safe with caution to be entered into Gemini. With caution, because there could still be aspects of the information that is in a budget, for example, that should not be included. Again, personal preferences, for example, in a budget draft. And then there's unrestricted data. This is data that's available to the public, or it's considered routine. It could be literature that's freely available, published. It could be some of the documentation that the university has made available to everybody, strategic plans, for example, public outcomes, and key performance indicator. All the type of information that's typically easy to find when carrying out a search online. So these are the two categories for which Google Gemini is allowed in grant proposal development. So what does this mean, and how does it relate to when we're thinking about a simplified version of the proposal development lifecycle? Typically, this type of activity starts with brainstorming, in which we may be interested in engaging with Google Gemini for bouncing ideas, for lack of a better term, expanding on some concept that we have. Well, in that situation, we may be using unrestricted data, so that's fine. We may have, however, already developed draft narratives that contain information that could be considered intellectual property. So think about that before, and be cautious about what you put in a brainstorming session. Literature review is mostly, again, composed of potentially unrestricted data, but there could also be data that belong to the protected category. For example, synthesis notes that come from a private meeting you may have had. That's the type of information that I would encourage you not to put into Gemini if you're using that for a literature review. When moving into developing the methodology for a grant application, this is where it gets a little more complicated, because some methods may be open source and freely available to the public, and so those are okay. But there may also be some methods that you are developing together with a partner, an industry partner, a community partner. And in those situations, especially when you're under non-disclosure agreement, that type of information should not go into an AI, including not going to Gemini. The research plan is where most of the caution must be paid, because at this point of the grant proposal development lifecycle, typically we have developed our own ideas, our own plans, and there's information that definitely fits into the protected or confidential, maybe in some instances even restricted category. So in that situation, none of that. I would encourage you all to pay special attention and be careful about what you put in. Don't put anything that's in the confidential and restricted categories. The review stage is one that is also very sensitive. If you are an external reviewer, if you're a peer reviewer, we'll see it in a moment. You should never put any of the proposals you receive to review into Google Gemini or any other AI, because that would constitute a breach of confidentiality. In the case of internal proposal review before a grant is submitted, that data should be treated as protected, and so potentially a tool like Google Gemini could be used in an internal scenario. I mentioned Tri-Council agency guidance for researchers. The Tri-Council organizes that guidance into two distinct sections. There's guidance that's provided to applicants, and there's guidance that's provided to peer reviewers. In the case of applicants, currently there are no requirements to disclose the use of artificial intelligence in creating a grant proposal. However, very importantly, all applicants remain fully accountable for every word and number that is in their application. This is absolutely important. AI is not your co-author. AI could be used to support your grant proposal development, but it's not a co-author. You remain fully accountable for all the information that you put in a grant proposal. And in that sense, attribution is absolutely critical. The outputs that can come out of an AI, including Google Gemini, are generated based on the large data sets that these systems were trained on. And so it's every researcher's responsibility to evaluate those critically and ensure that whatever is coming out of the AI is attributed properly. Finally, and I cannot emphasize this enough, please protect your IP. Ensure that any unpublished findings, anything that constitutes a novel methodology, or anything that has the character of partner confidential material is never introduced as such, and everything is anonymized before using Google Gemini. From a peer reviewer's perspective, there's a very clear line drawn, and it's a prohibition effectively. The use of publicly available online tools for peer review, so after a grant is submitted, for evaluating a grant application is strictly prohibited by the Tri-Council agency at this time. So please do not paste any parts of any grant into an AI that operates online. This is not even to ask for a quick summarization or for perhaps at the end of your own personal review, drafting a review that you may want to share with other colleagues. None of the activities that are involved in peer review should ever touch any AI at this point from a Tri-Council agency perspective. With that, I will turn it over to Ibironke to talk about some resources that the VPR has made available to the university.
Thank you, Paulo. Do you want to stop sharing so I can share my screen?
There we go.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen? This is a slideshow now. Okay, thank you for the overview, Paulo. Just a moment, I'm just trying to sort out things here. Yeah, so I will just use this opportunity to socialize the resource, the web resource that we have created for researchers at the University of Alberta on the use of generative AI for grant development. So we created the web page for two reasons. We want researchers to be able to have that essential knowledge. They should have the tools that they need to effectively use generative AI in research grant development. And at the same time, they should be able to understand their responsibility when using generative AI for grant development, particularly with respect to maintaining the highest standard of academic and research integrity when they are using generative AI for grant development. So there are two ways to access the web page. If you go on the Office of the Vice President's Research, let me see if this is going to work. Yeah, if you go on the Office of the Vice President's Research, you go on the Services tab, and you just scroll down and you have access to the web page. So this is what the web page looks like. And another option is to go on this website that is called Using Artificial Intelligence at the University of Alberta. So this is more like a central hub for using artificial intelligence. It has information about the framework for the responsible use of artificial intelligence. It has different resources for different categories of people with affiliation to the University of Alberta. It has resources for faculty and instructors, for students, and for researchers. So this is where another option to locate the web resource is going through that option. And so what the website contains, I'm not going to go into full details of all this information, the resources that the website contains because of time. So in case you're looking for information about the role that generative AI can potentially play in at every point in time in grants development, like if you want information about how it can be used for identifying funding opportunities in the actual proposal development, as well as how it can be used in institutional approval or internal review process. And the website also touched on some key components of AI literacy. It's not like very in-depth, but key components with respect to having the foundational knowledge, having the ability to be able to engage with generative AI effectively, which is prompting, and critically evaluating the output of AI, as well as general ethical and societal understanding on when it comes to the use of generative AI for grant development. It also has another tab on the limitations, potential limitations of generative AI in grant development, limitations with respect to using it for funding research. You need to understand that this AI, they are developed, the data that is used to train them could be up to a particular level. Like there could be data gaps, and it's also possible for it to miss potential critical nuances in the funding research. So you should be aware of this, as well as the potential in actual proposal development, the potential for it to hallucinate, the data security concerns, the IP violations that Paulo touched on. So those information are available on the website. Another thing that is available on the website is the key privacy differences between the free and enterprise level generative AI tools like Google, the enterprise level Google Gemini that we have, the privacy difference that it has compared to if you are, and I should mention that the Google Gemini enterprise level protection is only applicable if you sign in with your CCID. So that's when it identifies you as a staff or as a student at the University of Alberta, and then the protection applies. If you are interested in knowing about the key privacy differences that exist when we are using the free versus enterprise level with respect to how it uses your data, at the enterprise level, the data that you enter into it is not used for model training based on the agreement that we have with Google, as well as the privacy controls in areas where admin can have oversight and areas where admin cannot have oversight, with respect to where the data resides after where the data resides and is stored, data confidentiality, security, and every other thing that you might be interested in when it comes to understanding these differences is available on that web page. And also, there is a link to the key policy guidelines from the funding agency. For now, we only have the tri-agency and the CFI, as well as the University of Alberta framework. It has the link that can take you to the framework on the use of artificial intelligence at the University of Alberta. So it also has information about tools, potential AI tools that you can use for grant development. So when it comes to drafting and brainstorming, commercial large language models like Google Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT can be used. But there are also specialized generative AI platforms like that can be used for academic research, like for literature review, for references, for a whole lot of things. So the library website on which AI tool to use for specific research activity or grant development activity is a very useful resource. So the link to that website is also available here. So with respect to drafting and brainstorming, Google Gemini is the only institutionally approved tool when you sign in with your CCID. I just thought I should reiterate that. And this particular webpage also has information about prompting fundamentals, like how to engage effectively with generative AI in order to get the best output out of it, because the quality of output that you get from generative AI depends on the quality of a prompt that you include. So this touched on the CLAIRE framework for prompting. And on the website as well, when I say we, the Research Development Services portfolio of the Office of the Vice President Research, we have developed a couple of generative AI tools that can support grant development process. We have the narrative CV assistant. I'm not sure if some of you are aware of this particular tool. And we also have the narrative CV reviewer, and it's helps to provide feedback and on your review on your narrative CV. In case you don't want it to generate a narrative CV draft for you, you can use it to review. And even if it generates one for you, you can also use the reviewer as a judge of the output of the assistant. And we also have the EDI assistant that we've created. That's more of a Socratic partner that will guide you through generating the EDI section for your proposal. And if you have suggestions on other tools that might be useful for you in the course of your grant development, if you are planning on applying for any competition and you feel like this particular section is a challenge and you wish that there could be some AI tool that can help you in order to increase efficiency, most importantly, because whatever tool we develop, it's not going to replace the human ability. It's meant to augment it. So you can this presentation slides will be provided, so you can fill out the form that is there, or you can just send an email to vprai@urbada.ca for those tools. So I need to mention that these tools that we have developed, they are used, we developed them using the Google Gemini Gems. I'm not sure if you are aware of what gems are. They are more like permanent, I wouldn't say permanent, but you can give it a whole number of instructions, knowledge files, and that you can use over time, so that anytime you need to, you don't need to write the prompt every time you need to do a particular task that is related to what it was designed for. So these tools that we have developed, they are developed using Google Gemini Gems, mainly based on the agreement that we have with Google and the privacy protection that it provides. So I intend to do a demo of the narrative CV assistant. I will quickly run through it because of time, in the interest of time. But basically, we have developed this assistant to help researchers when writing their narrative CV. We understand that narrative CV is a new requirement, and it's come with a lot of anxiety for researchers. So we have created this tool with a set of instructions based on the different trainings, based on the tri-agency instructions on how to write narrative CV. So I need to mention that this particular tool is for the Canadian Tri-Agency Council alone. So it has 3 sections: the personal statement, the most significant contributions and experiences, and the last one, which is training of supervisory and training activities. So what it does is it helps you to create a first draft. So the first draft is not what you can just copy and paste into your application. Like it was mentioned at the beginning of this presentation that human augmentation is very important, and you are responsible for the accuracy of the information that you provide in your application, including your narrative CV. So it's important that you treat this tool and whatever it generates as a first draft that you need to review. You need to check for accuracy, and if it's missing any important information that you need to provide, or if it has, because it has the potential to mix up things and hallucinate. So if it has mixed up some information about you, so you need to also review it for that. So I will try and quickly do a demo. Janice, can we stop recording at this point in time?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, everyone. Okay. Gonna just. Okay. Well, are you able to see the slides, Paulo?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. NotebookLM for grant writing. So this is a tool that the university has access to, everybody on campus. It basically helps you in grant writing as a workflow, not as an assistant, as Paula said. And I'll go over briefly because I want to demonstrate actually the actual case, shared scholarship, not a scholarship, a shared grant application to demonstrate how capable NotebookLM is in terms of helping you and supporting you in developing and formulating a grant proposal. And there are some prompt examples that we have in the slides that I'll show you later on. So NotebookLM, some of you may have or may have not used it. It's a tool that is part of the Google suite of applications that I advocated for the university to adopt this as a tool back in 2024. People are using it for different purposes, for teaching, research. In this particular case, for helping you to write grant proposals. And what it is capable of is many of the features of the large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, but some additional functionalities. The key advantage is this tool is a safe, secure, and enclosed environment where you can actually upload a variety of documents, whether it's PDF documents, Google documents, etc., proposals, guidelines from a funding agency. You can actually upload those. It does automatic summarization, has translation capabilities, and as you will see on the bottom left-hand side, it does actually provide a range of really, really cool and fascinating features to create different types of artifacts. You could create a mind map, for example, create infographics, a set of slides. It's quite a powerful platform, and it was introduced back in 2023 by Google. And one of the challenges that we experience, I've been involved in developing proposals for SHIRT, for NSERC, and CIHR, and because of the sheer volume of documents that you have to actually read and understand and make references to, for example, program guides, rubrics, literature, CV, institutional regulations, sometimes institutional priorities or research clusters that you want to address. It's a host of documents that you have to actually address and work with. And how do you align them with your proposal or your idea and thought is always not a challenge, but it's also a detailed process that it requires spending some time. And NotebookLM is actually pretty good at actually synthesizing and extracting data from different sources of data and put it into a coherent and meaningful framework. So what is NotebookLM is good for? It basically working from a source of truth, if you like. So basically, you actually upload documents that you have, and you work from those documents rather than the typical large language model where it actually uses a variety of different sources from the web and digital repositories that you don't have control over. But in NotebookLM, you have full control over your content, and you can define your sources of truth. And you can detect gaps in the literature and in publications and in your work that you have been working on, whether it's notes or mind maps. You could actually have a project note, for example. So uploading sources, asking questions, checking citations, and generating artifacts are examples of those. And in terms of the process, when you think about it, um, how to decode the call for example, AI in society, as an example. How do you actually make sense of the eligibility criteria, priorities, and related to your own research area, building evidence, papers, publications, presentations, shaping proposal logic in terms of originality, impact, knowledge mobilization and translation, and then stress test the draft, that what is missing, what are the inconsistencies, what are the challenges that you may not immediately see around the feasibility of that project. And then the recommendation is for each grant proposal, create one notebook LM, and I'll show you in a minute. Rather than actually, if you're working on multiple proposals, don't put them all in one notebook. Create a separate notebook for each. And these are the basically a combination of sources of truth that you can add to Notebook LM, which I'll show you in a minute. Funding call, program guide, evaluation rubric. If you have a project concept note, 327 core papers, you could add more papers. You can upload up to 50 actually documents, a narrative CV that Ibaronke introduced. So you could do all that. So I'm going to move to Notebook LM, and Notebook LM is actually a very easy environment. As you'll see this space, you add resources, basically upload files. It could be even websites, URLs. You can upload from your drive. You could copy even text. All the resources appear on the left-hand side. So I'll show you in a minute how this works. The middle part provides a summary of the resources that you have uploaded, but also a chat interface that you can actually interrogate and query your documents. And the right-hand side is the studio, where you can create audio overview, video overview of all the documents that you have created, reports, briefings, mind maps, concept maps that are particularly useful for teaching. And you will see in this case, on the left-hand side, I have uploaded, for example, I'm creating, imagine that I'm creating a SHIRK grant proposal for a topic on AI literacy and graduate research, an area that I've been working in the past 4 years on how to equip our graduate students and postdocs with AI knowledge, literacy, and fluency to be able to actually use that responsibly and ethically. So imagine this as a topic. I have included SHIRK Insight grant guidelines. As Paulo said, these are publicly accessible. You can upload this in this environment. And I am the only one having access to this environment, as I said. There is SHIRK application instructions. I have incorporated the University Research and Innovation Strategic Plan with all the great challenges and global areas of excellence that the university is famous for. My own project concept note, it's a 3-page document that I've created. Even if you have a simple idea, and a narrative CV that I've created actually based using the tool that Ebaronke actually introduced just now. And I asked the narrative CV platform to go over, Semantic Scholar as a digital repository of scholarly publication, Google Scholar, my ORCID. In addition to my my website, and also other sources that you could do, your institutional profile. These are all publicly accessible, right? So created that CV, and then some publications that I have here, as well as presentations. So now when it comes to interrogating and interacting with these documents, it is important. Prompt engineering is an area that is really important when you want to actually interact with these platforms in a more informed and strategic way. So the first prompt you'll see here, I've added, these are all in the slides as well. based on the, and I put it in square brackets, SHIRC Insight Grant Guidelines, you'll see here, and the University of Alberta Strategic Plan for Research and Innovation Priorities identify 3 specific areas where my project concept note that I have created for this project align perfectly, and 2 areas where the alignment is currently weak or needs more explicit justification. So if you pay attention to the language I've used for creating this prompt, it basically shows your strength in this proposal as well as areas for improvement. So NotebookLM provides some areas that are strong in my proposal, including, the importance of training graduate students and postdocs and highly qualified personnel, areas of ethical impacts of artificial intelligence as it appears in my document, alignment with the university research and innovation strategic plan, and my knowledge mobilization, and areas that need explicit justification. For example, talking about EDI, and I actively need to incorporate and recruit graduate students from a variety of different, basically diverse communities to enhance the proposal. Plus, what are some of the weaknesses? If there is a justification that needs more strengthening or rationalizing, it would add that. The second prompt, for example, looks at this particular area, review my narrative CV and project concept note, extract the most relevant publications and leadership experiences that demonstrate my capability to execute the specific methodology proposed in this project. Draft a 3-sentence personal statement for the grant application based on this. So it looks at my narrative CV that has already been created, and looks at areas that I am strong and makes me a good candidate for conducting this study. For example, the publication I had on artificial intelligence literacy back in 2024, looking at characterization of AI in this document, and then research and work that have done in terms of design and participatory design, as well as my current role, how I work on a number of AI literacy initiatives at the University of Alberta, and then creates this drafted personal statement based on the documents, CV, and project proposal note that I have here. A third prompt looks at looking at across the uploaded papers and presentations on AI and graduate research and education, summarize my previous findings regarding balancing innovation and accountability in relation to AI use in research, then suggest how I can frame these findings in the background section of the grant to justify the current project's hypothesis. And it does that beautifully, but also based on the places where I have actually made references to these concepts. For example, part of my presentation, if you look at it, immediately you see where I have actually, that this is one of my presentations on campus that I focus on these matters, right? So you get to see immediately and seamlessly access to the sources of truth that you have introduced and uploaded already, rather than letting a large language model on the web like Gemini even or ChatGPT to go through different sources of unreliable data, such as social media and websites that are not sometimes reliable. And then it provides a kind of also angle and alignment in terms of how I can pitch this, that, currently in relation to AI, it's a wild west of innovation, but how do we actually tame that and bring accountability as a way of ensuring that ethical and responsible use is promoted, encouraged, and exercised. And then another one here is create a checklist of all formatting and submission requirements. And this is really, NotebookLM is also good for the tiny little formatting exercises. Sometimes can be really, really time consuming and challenging and difficult to keep track of throughout your entire document and the proposal that it has multiple components. And it does that, and it goes through, again, different aspects of the guidelines here, as you will see. So basically, you have control over how NotebookLM helps you, based on the sources that you have uploaded, to develop and enhance your proposal. There are other prompts that I have in the slides. Here is another one. Rewrite the executive summary from the project concept note to be more persuasive for a multidisciplinary review committee. And this is also interesting. Focus on broader impacts as defined in the SSHRC Insight Grant guidelines while maintaining the technical accuracy. So these are examples, and then it actually does that again based on evidence that I have provided in different sources and different publications and presentations that I have. So if our publications are open access and not copyrighted, feel free to use them in this space. There's more of those, and in addition, as I said, these artifacts are particularly useful. I can show you just one example how good NotebookLM is for visualization and for creating infographics. For knowledge translation, also, if you have multiple partners across the university or Canada to basically share a quick overview of research that you are proposing in a different type of document or representation. And this is roughly what I'm proposing. You're focusing on enhancing discovery and synthesis, beyond search, deep search, workflow assistance, some of the challenges around ethical foundations and integrity. And of course, you can do other things like slides that I can also show you here. Really, really, really aesthetically pleasing documents it can create to convey and communicate what you actually are working on or what you have worked on so far, or if you want to do any presentations. I know that we're running out of time. I just want to have a few minutes for questions if possible. So I'm going to stop sharing. Over to you, Janice.
Great, thank you so much. It was a lot of really good content from our speakers today. And I see that Ibiranke was able to answer some of the questions in the chat, but we do have a few more questions. Or a few more time for questions, pardon me. So I welcome you to put it in the chat or unmute yourselves if you're comfortable. And while you're all reflecting on your questions, I will also put a link in the chat for you to provide feedback for today's session. We welcome any feedback, positive, negative, to help us improve this session in the future, or if you have any other topics that you would like us to cover for future sessions. So I'll also put that link there for everyone. And are there any questions or comments about today's presentation?
Janice, while we are waiting for that, I wanted to emphasize that I have a slide actually that we will share, that the important point about NotebookLM is not for you to for NotebookLM to write a proposal for you. It is actually as your thought partner or virtual thinking partner, so it can enhance and augment the process of interacting with documents, not actually replacing that. And of course, verification of content is foundational to any use cases that you work with AI platforms.
Yeah, excellent reminder that we use it to augment, not replace our work.
We'd also mention that NotebookLM is available for everybody on campus, students, faculty, staff. You simply, if you have an email account, this Gmail account, or when you're signed in, if you Google search NotebookLM, the link comes up, you click on it and creating a notebook, and you get directed to the NotebookLM platform directly. So it's very easy to access the platform.
Yeah, and with our enterprise license, we can have up to 500 sources. So I think there will be no shortage of materials that you can upload as your corpus. Oh, there's a good question in the chat. I don't know if you can see that. Apparently, the EU is flooded with AI-generated proposals, which is complicating the review process. How do you keep ensuring proposals are of high quality and authentic? Thanks for the question. Who would like to take that one on?
Paula, do you want to address it or you want me to start?
It's a $1 million question, right? I am of the opinion that AI can be extremely useful in strengthening the grantsmanship in a proposal. And in that sense, it can be useful to folks that are perhaps English as a second language or that haven't had the opportunity to train extensively in the art of grantsmanship. What will ultimately win is the best idea. Call me an optimist. There will definitely be challenges because the volumes will increase. It looks like in the EU they have increased. But ultimately, the best ideas will always win.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because the same argument holds true, the argument in this question holds true for publications. There was a journal actually last year announced that this year they are not going to accept any publications that is about AI. Just a radical approach they take simply because they receive a huge number of submissions and manuscripts that basically talk about the use of AI in different topics and different areas. But I think in terms of what stands out is interesting. How do you actually work with these tools and use these tools in a very engaged and critical way to create something innovative, as Paulo said, not just this is not writing an email or even drawing up a speech script that you see that in many places. Actually, they are quite common and very similar themes and overlapping areas that oftentimes I'm thinking, oh, it's the same platform. So for research, I think it's particularly important to draw upon your own expertise and knowledge and use AI in a critical way, not just as a passive accepting output way.
If I can quickly add to that, to everything that has been said concerning that question. So funding agencies are realizing this, that people are now churning out proposals, and I want to believe that in the coming months or years, they will have policies in place to curb this. And in the one conference that we attended last 2 weeks ago, one of the presenters mentioned that in the NIH has made this policy that's only 6 proposals. A researcher can only submit 6 proposals per year. So, I mean, that's one of the ways in which they are trying to curb just people sending multiple proposals every time. So I want to believe that funding agencies are aware, they're very aware of this, and there will be things that will be put in place to address this.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And we are at time. Sorry for going a little bit over time, but I think this is just, it's really interesting and we're all grappling with how to use AI in our work and research. So thanks again to all of our speakers and hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.